Chapter 7. "What do you mean they came and got her?" demanded Drew. "It was her dad," explained Max. "It's not like I could just say, 'No, you cannot have your daughter.' He had a doctor along and what looked like some security people. I had the feeling that if I said no, they would have just busted in and taken her anyway." Drew cursed. He ran a hand through his hair and looked up at the ceiling of Dr. Mendez's office. He had been waiting to speak to the psychiatrist. How had they known where Drew had taken Bethany? Could someone have tipped them off? Drew had thought the Ramsey brothers were interested in protecting her. If he had not, he would never have left her in Max's care while he went to investigate further. "Do you have any idea what they were driving? Plate numbers?" "I've got one better than that," Max said with some satisfaction. "I put Paget's old phone in Beth's overnight bag. It has GPS tracking on it from when we lived in a not-so-great neighborhood. That way, if she lost the phone or it got stolen, we could find it back. I'm tracking it on a laptop right now." "You're smarter than you look, Max." Drew raced out of the office, taking the stairs. He ignored the startled looks of people as he ran past them. "Where's it going? Since we look almost the same, you do realize you're insulting yourself as well?" chuckled Max. "Directions, Max?" Drew said curtly as he entered the parking garage. He transferred the call to his helmet and started his motorcycle. "They're going east on 5th, crossing King Street right now," Max directed. 5th and King, got it. Drew peeled out of the garage. They had a head start and were on the other side of town. He hoped that he could reach them in time. "If you think you know where they might be going, tell me immediately." Max continued to give him directions, but Drew was snarled in traffic. There was some sort of accident or major traffic incident, and it did not seem to matter what street or alley he turned down. The city was blocked. Even as he broke numerous laws, dodging between vehicles and going on the sidewalk sometimes, it was a huge traffic jam. "I think they're going to Mr. Searson's office." Max rattled off the address. It did not help. Drew could not reach them. "Hold on a moment. I'm putting you on a conference call. Just be quiet and do not hang up." The phone rang, and an agitated Miguel answered. "Yeah?" "I need uniforms at the 1900 block of King," said Drew. "We have a possible abduction." "No can do," replied Miguel. "There is no one in that area." "Get them there," commanded Drew as he tried to navigate the street. Horns were blowing as people were not impressed that he was not waiting his turn. He blew a red light without even blinking. "Almost everyone is at Horton and Adelaide. There is a train wreck. Car 0, train 1 if anyone is keeping score. Why people try to get across the track when a train is barreling at them is beyond me. Some cars were derailed and there's a fire." Miguel shouted at someone to stay back. "It is chaos. There is no one to spare." Drew could now see smoke as he turned a corner. He stopped the bike and flipped the visor on his helmet. "Is there any way to get across the tracks?" "Not that I know of. The rail guys are blocking what the train is not. Maybe if you go as far as Pickering?" "It's going to be hours of mess," responded Miguel. "I'm surprised the station has not called you to come in and join us to direct traffic." "I've been on the phone," growled Drew. Plus, he was on suspension. Right now, even if Green called and begged, Drew was not going to report for duty. He had Bethany to think of. "Hey, Drew," interrupted Max. "The car stopped. They have arrived at the office." "Who is that? Is that Max?" wondered Miguel curiously of the other voice on the conference call. "Later." Drew hung up on Miguel. He dialed another number. "Pick up. Pick up." "Yo," said a deep voice. "Molson, I need you to do something for me. Now, with no questions asked." Drew flipped his visor down, turned the bike, and sped down the street between the waiting cars. "You still at the shop?" "This sounds interesting," Molson replied lazily. "I'm just closing. There's a girl in trouble. Max is going to send you her picture and the address where she is." Drew sped up along a narrow street. "I need you to go there and find her. Do whatever it takes to stall the people with her until I get there." "How bad of trouble?" asked Molson, intrigued. Drew hesitated. "I think they might kill her." "What?" Max asked in concern. "You didn't say that when you suspected Mr. Searson of possibly killing her." I don't know for certain, Drew replied. He had a bad feeling about this. Drew thought Ted Searson was the most likely suspect in his daughter's attempted murder. He cut across a parking lot. Give him the address. Let me get my coat, said Molson. Molson, cautioned Drew as he wondered if that was code for grabbing a weapon. Sometimes his brother spoke in the worst sort of slang, and Drew did not always understand. I don't need you trying to be a hero. I just need you to be your usual aggravating self and stall them until I get there. I am the cop. I will deal with it. Sure thing, bro, he agreed easily. 1900 block of King. 1908 Unit 7A. She's downright beautiful. They should be in Searson's office. I'm going to draw you a quick map of the building and send it to you, said Max. What, you get so special they gave you your own tech support person? Like Garcia in Criminal Minds? Molson questioned flippantly. Get a move on, growled Drew. He did not particularly like that Molson had commented on Bethany's looks. He hated that his options had been limited to using Molson at all. Molson does not seem to be taking this very seriously, Max voiced his reservations. Can you trust him? I've got no one else right now, Drew admitted. All personnel would be at the train accident. Says how desperate you must be, the lazy voice commented. Are you going? Drew clenched his teeth. Hey, I'm on it, Molson assured him. I will let you know how it goes. They could hear the call disconnect. Drew turned at Pickering, hoping to get past the snarl of cars. I'm not feeling confident of your boy, said Max. Should I go? It's a 30-minute drive for me. No. Drew spotted the train barriers. They were down. The lights were flashing, but it was only the railroad crew there. With his motorcycle, he would be able to squeeze through. I am 20 or less away. Plus, with all the traffic issues, a car would never make it. Then we have no choice but to rely on your brother. Max's tone conveyed that he did not like it. Drew did not like it either. But there was not a thing he could do about it. He hit the throttle on the bike and drove as fast as he dared. Drew tried to ignore the feeling of helplessness and anger that was roused in him. Bethany was not a threat to anyone. She was vulnerable and sweet, and a little confused, maybe. Bethany was the type of woman that made a man want to protect her. He was doing a lousy job of that. Molson pressed the police badge up to the window as he knocked. The cleaning lady looked at him, pulling the earbuds out of her ears and shutting off her vacuum. She looked at him suspiciously. He was glad he had taken the time to turn up the collar of his coat to hide the tattoos on his neck. Molson tried to look like he was on official police business. Police, I need access to the building. She sauntered over, popping a bubble of gum, and looked at the badge. It was real. Molson had pickpocketed it from Miguel 6 years ago. This was the first time he had ever used it. He hoped she was not looking too closely at it because he did not exactly match the picture on the ID. With a nod, she unlocked the door. What is going on? Ma'am, I need you to not say anything, but there is a bomb threat that was called into this building. I am going to clear out the floors. You should go wait in your car until we've searched the place. Molson lied as he kept the door open, and 5 guys, all dressed in black, entered with him. He purposely dropped his accent and polished his speech a little to sound more professional. Oh! She slapped her hands over her bubblegum-chewing mouth, her eyes getting really big. Mr. Searson and some people just went up to his office. What floor would they be on? Molson already knew, but he played along. The top one. It's full of executive offices. She fumbled with her key card, taking it off a ring of keys. Here, you need to swipe this to enter. The code is 1112. So helpful. Molson stopped himself from smiling just in time. Thank you, ma'am. Now go out to your car where you will be safe. She nodded and scurried out of the building. I am going to call my girlfriend. She is never going to believe this. Molson shrugged as he watched her leave. It would keep her busy while they looked for Bethany Searson. Man, we should do this for a living, one of the guys said as he looked around the deserted foyer. It only should be a bank or someplace more valuable. Molson reluctantly shook his head and led the way to the elevator. At the top floor, he used the key card and passcode supplied. They grinned at each other as the door opened. Molson motioned them to spread out to search the floor. He followed Max's map to Ted Searson's office. As he neared, Molson could hear voices. "What, you start the party without me?" Molson looked slightly affronted as he casually entered the office. The occupants gazed at him, startled. He recognized Ted Searson from the photo that Max had thoughtfully provided. He also knew Bethany from the same source. There was a woman there perched on the couch with Bethany that he did not know. There was also David Ramsley, sitting on the edge of the desk, obviously holding court. "Who are you?" Ted stood up in alarm. "None of your business. Sit down," Molson ordered him as he crouched in front of Bethany. "What did they do to you, girl?" Bethany was reclining against the couch, her eyes barely open, mouth slack as she labored to breathe. Molson used a small flashlight to check her eyes, then took her pulse. "I told you she needs a hospital." The woman glared at David. "I do not understand what is happening. Did she take some previously prescribed pills? Over-the-counter medications?" "How should I know?" David said mildly as he watched Molson check Bethany. "Andrew must have sent you." "Now, I know you just didn't say that." Molson looked around and spied the bag of prescription medications. He grabbed it, reading through some of the labels quickly. "'Cause if you did, that means you know all about Andrew, which means you know about me. I gotta say I'm upset you didn't send no Christmas cards or nothing." "Why would I?" David said nonchalantly. "You are not mine." "I got a DNA test that says otherwise." Molson shook the bag of drugs at the woman on the couch. "You, Dr. You? The one with the name all over these bottles?" "When did you get my DNA?" demanded David. "Yes," Dr. Urshman said shakily, trying to back away from the bag of pills he had shoved under her nose. "What did you give her?" Molson questioned none too gently. "Today? Nothing. 2 days ago I gave her a lorazepam to calm her down to help in a therapy session," she replied defensively. "Nothing else. Nothing to make her like this." "I asked you a question, boy." David stood, glaring down at them. "You think you're the only one who can get things done." Molson gave David a derisive look, then tossed the bag of pills to one of his friends. He picked up Bethany, cradling her against him. "Come on, sugar. I am gonna get you feeling better." "Wait," cried Ted. "You can't just take her." "Really?" laughed Molson. "In case you didn't notice, Ted, your daughter is suffering from an overdose. If she don't get this junk out of her, she's gonna die." "No." Ted looked lost. "She's not supposed to die." "Shut up, Ted," growled David. "Lady, you coming?" Molson raised an eyebrow at Dr. Urshman. "Excuse me?" Holly questioned suspiciously to him. She looked very afraid. "Wow, okay. Let me lay this out to you," decided Molson. "For some reason, they got you all caught up in their scheme. Maybe it sounded good at first. Maybe there's money involved. Whatever. Point is, after Bethany makes a full recovery and points the finger at you for prescribing all those pills, who do you think's gonna take the fall? Them?" scoffed Molson. "Ted and David here got lawyers and cash to keep themselves out of jail. They will just say it was all you. You are gonna rot in prison. Unless you roll on them first before Miss Sunshine here gets well. You testify, or you can take your chances with these two. They ain't looking out for your interests. In fact, I will lay odds that they might just do to you what they did to dear Sugar here." Molson headed out the door. "This is unacceptable." David strode out after him, only to be blocked by one of Molson's companions. "Just who do you think you are?" Molson's friend just smiled. "Someone who can't be bought," Molson replied as he headed to the elevator. His companions joined him. "You won't let her die?" Ted asked anxiously as he trailed them in the hallway. Molson did not answer. One of his friends hit the elevator buttons. As the doors closed, Holly slipped into the elevator with them. She cleared her throat nervously. "Snitches get stitches," someone remarked. "Not this one," Molson said sharply. "Doc, if I want to get Sugar here into a hospital not owned by David Ramsley's family, where do I go?" "Mercy is the closest," she protested. "Not an option." Molson did not trust that something would not happen to Bethany there. General is the next closest, said Holly. That's where people go to die, one of the men said dismissively. It was known as the Poor People's Hospital, an inner-city building that was old, decaying, understaffed, and undersupplied. Next? Asked Molson. The other hospitals are too far away, she insisted. If it is an overdose, then she'll die before she gets treated on time unless we go to Mercy. Molson did not like the options. You got wheels? Excuse me? Wheels. A car. You got a car, Molson repeated with some frustration as they exited the building. Not like we can take sugar here on the subway. Yes. Holly dug into her purse for her keys, trying to keep up with the group of men. I'm gonna let the cleaning lady know she can go back to work. Call it a false alarm or something, one of the guys commented as he split from the group. What are you doing? Drew demanded. Drew had parked the bike on the sidewalk and had come directly to Molson as they were coming out of the building. I thought I told you to stall, not grab her. You're welcome, Molson replied dryly. He was surprised that Drew immediately reached out to transfer Bethany into his own arms. Molson smirked. You got a thing for her? He gave Molson a dark look, ignoring the comment. He looked with alarm at the nearly unconscious Bethany. What happened? Have you called an ambulance? No. Molson shook his head. His friends had melted away as soon as they saw Drew. They knew he was a cop and did not want to stick around. Molson did not blame them in the least. We were about to take Doc's car to Mercy. It'll be faster. Doc? Drew questioned. Doc Ershman here? Molson nodded in Holly's direction. Thought you might want to talk to her. Drew gave a short nod. They followed Holly to her car. Drew was surprised when Molson not only helped put Bethany in the back seat, but jumped in the front passenger seat. Thought I might see how this all plays out. Molson winked at Holly. Hey, Drew. You know our old man is involved in all this? Drew frowned. What do you mean? Well, it was all cozy up there. The Doc, Sugar, Sugar's dad, and Mr. Moneybags, Ramsley himself. Molson shrugged. He must have a stake in all this. Stop calling her Sugar. Drew glared at Molson, who ignored him. When we get to the hospital, I'm going to take both your statements. I expect nothing less, Molson commented. Honey, you gonna lay on some gas? It'd be better if we get to the hospital before she dies. I'm well aware that we need to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. Holly made a turn. However, I cannot exactly break any traffic laws. You got a cop in the back seat. Molson rolled his eyes. If we get tagged by some other cops, he'll explain at the hospital. Now punch it. Holly looked in her rearview mirror at Drew. If you see an opening, take it. Do not get into an accident, but do not worry about traffic laws either. Drew said grimly. I should have driven. You? Molson huffed with a smile. I can pass you any day of the week. Only because you're reckless, Drew grimaced. He checked to make sure Bethany was breathing. Do you know what she is on? No, Holly replied. I think she was given something before I came into the office. All I gave her was a simple lorazepam a couple of days ago. She should not be like this. We tried a regressive therapy technique. It involves relaxing the patient and walking them through their emotions. She did really well. Afterwards, her father took her home since Bethany was still too relaxed on the medications. Then today, I got a phone call to meet Mr. Searson at his office. He wanted to discuss Bethany's treatment and said she'd been depressed lately. He convinced me to come. When I arrived, Holly continued as she made a turn, I found Bethany like this. Mr. Searson was there, and another man. I assumed he is a colleague of Mr. Searson's? What about all the drugs you prescribed to her over the past 4 days? Asked Drew. I have not prescribed her anything for over a month, frowned Holly. Cut to the truth, lady, Drew said shortly. I saw the bottles with your name on them. There's nearly a dozen prescriptions, all within the last 4 days. No, insisted Holly. I did not prescribe them. I got a theory. Molson looked back at Drew. Not sure I should say it in front of her. Say it, growled Drew, holding Bethany a little tighter. Now, I ain't got no proof or nothing, cautioned Molson. My thinking is that Sugar's been set up. Accidental overdose. I'm betting there was a piece up in that office. Her daddy gets so upset by Sugar's death, he kills the dog, then himself. Everyone calls it a tragedy and says we need better laws for the overprescribing meds. At least, that's what everybody's gonna think by the time the papers get through with it. My guess is Pop was there to do the actual killing. Pop goes totally free. No one knew he was there.
They were going to kill her? Holly shook her head. Her father loves her. Mr. Searson would not do that.
David Ramsley don't love her. He don't love nobody but himself, Molson replied dryly. He ain't got the same moral codes as everyone else. I seen that look in his eyes in some gangbangers. It's the same. There's no proof, Drew said shortly. Why would David Ramsley kill them all and cover it up like a murder-suicide? Never said there was proof. Molson looked back at Drew, all serious. But it ties everything up right neat. Now, why would they want Sugar dead?
Drew thought back to Bethany's dream. She said there had been 2 men, one trying to drown her, one trying to save her.
I think you got an idea. Molson nodded at Drew. I see the wheels turning in your head.
You think this is connected to the regressed memories she has been trying to recover? Questioned Holly as it started to make sense to her. To whatever she saw on the boat.
Again, I need proof.
Drew grimaced. He had motive if the drug angle was correct. He had suspects. He had a crime. But he did not have a single piece of evidence other than the flimsy memories of a woman. We're here. Holly pressed the brakes and put the car in park in front of the emergency room door. They rushed to get Bethany out of the car. Drew carried her into the hospital.
Make sure Dr. Urshman does not go anywhere, Drew said to Molson as he brought Bethany to the triage center. I need her statement. In fact, call Miguel. He can interview both of you. I'm on it, Molson said, pulling out his cell phone. Drew approached the nurse at the desk. I need help. Possible overdose. It did not take long to get a gurney and Bethany admitted. Drew flashed his badge and was able to remain by her side for the whole process. As he watched the medical staff take care of her, he sent up silent prayers for her recovery. It should not matter so much, but it did. He had to admit that Max might be right about connecting to someone. It did not mean that she was the one or that he was going to pursue her in any way. She was far too high class for him. Drew knew that he did not stand a chance in her world, and she would probably never adapt to his. Better to just figure out who was trying to kill her, keep her safe, and then send her on her way. Drew would do his best to forget about her once this was all over. Finally, she was out of danger and wheeled to a private room. Drew followed. He called Max and assured him that Bethany was okay and that the doctors were confident that she would recover. He called Miguel and about 3 hours later was able to get him to take Molson and Dr. Urshman's statements. The train incident was under control, with only a few roads still blocked, freeing up some of the emergency crews in the area. Miguel took Drew's statement as well, having to do it at the hospital, since Drew was not going to leave Bethany unguarded. I can bring Ted Searson and David Ramsley in for questioning. Without evidence, we're going to have a hard time making anything stick, Miguel said quietly as they sat in Bethany's room. I know, sighed Drew. Someone is trying to kill her, and my gut says the dad's complicit while David Ramsley is pulling the strings. Dr. Urshman swears she did not prescribe the meds. She cannot prove that she did not. Maybe Ted Searson will crack under questioning. More than likely he'll just lawyer up, stated Miguel. This all has to do with the childhood memory on a boat? As near as I can figure, nodded Drew. Now we have to wait for her to wake up and tell us what she knows. However, she was pretty drugged out. I doubt she'll remember much of what just happened. Miguel looked at Bethany. Private room. Pretty pricey. She's out of my league. I know. Drew agreed. He did not need Miguel's gentle reminder of that fact. Miguel stood and put a hand on Drew's shoulder. You need anything, you let me know. Don't fall too deep. Drew nodded. It was doomed before it even began. He tried to ignore the squeeze on his heart that had finally relaxed once the doctors said that Bethany would recover. Let's just figure this out so she's safe and I can get her out of my life. I'll pull them in for questioning. The shrink, too. She might have something further to say when she sees the inside of a jail cell. Miguel exited the room. Drew hoped so. He needed to get Bethany Searson out of his life.
A knock on the door drew his attention. Molson tossed him a set of keys. "Thought you might need those." Drew caught the keys and gave them a quick look. They were for his truck. "Thanks. It's parked out in the lot. All paid for and proper, so don't worry about no ticket." Molson leaned against the wall. "I'm borrowing your motorcycle till later." Drew breathed in a calming breath. He supposed Molson deserved this bike for a little while, since he had been instrumental in saving Bethany's life. No dents, no illegal activity, no tickets, no speeding. "Sure thing." Molson managed to sound just a touch offended. "Can I put a bumper sticker on it?" "No." Drew gave Molson a dirty look. Molson smirked. "How's Sugar?" "Her name is Bethany," Drew chided. "The doctors say she will be fine. She woke up once, but was disorientated. By tomorrow the drugs will be out of her system, and she'll likely be good to go." Molson nodded. "You gonna make a move on her when she's done with this nearly getting killed business?" Drew had an unamused laugh. "Not likely. She's far too classy for me." "Why don't you let her decide that? At least give Sugar a chance to choose if you are really what she wants. She might be silly enough to go for you." Molson left the room on that cryptic remark. Drew leaned back in his uncomfortable chair. There were days where he wanted to throttle his younger brother. Actually, those were most days, he reflected. No, he would help her, then do his best to forget about her. Drew must have dozed off at some point. He blamed it on not getting enough sleep when Max was still in his apartment. He wished he had not slept, though. It was sloppy of him, no matter his sleep-deprived state. He was supposed to be keeping an eye on Bethany, since he had chosen to become her self-appointed guardian. Drew opened his eyes and listened. Bethany moved restlessly in the bed. She had been the noise that had awakened him. Bethany murmured something in her sleep, thrashing against the blankets. "Hey." Drew stood up and carefully gave her arm a little shake. "Bethany, you are okay." She jerked awake, terrified. "Beth." Drew kept his voice soft as he wiped a tear from her face. "It is all right. You were in the hospital." "The hospital?" Bethany looked up at him in confusion, slowly relaxing at his touch. "That's right," he nodded. "You're going to be fine." "I was dreaming," Bethany said sleepily. She took hold of his hand, clasping it to her cheek. "What were you dreaming?" asked Drew. "I was trying to find Michael's boat. I wanted to play on it," she murmured drowsily. "I was not supposed to be on his boat." Drew watched her drift back into sleep. He held onto her hand a little while longer before releasing it and heading into the hall just outside her door. Drew pulled out his cell phone and called Miguel. "Does Michael Ramsley have a boat?" Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed Chapter 7, look for Chapter 8. Also, Love and Lies is on Amazon in the Kindle section and in Kindle Unlimited. Very soon, the audiobook will be made available as well. Happy listening!